Gentlemen,
Jersey, what's going on, sir?
yo, you guys had me absolutely rolling, dying watching that.
You wasn't supposed to see that.
No, you wasn't.
Oh, I had to. I had to, man. I was dying laughing.
You cannot come behind the curtain, man.
That's what I do, man. I'm just a curious guy like that, you know?
Oh, that's good. How's Jersey treating you?
Yo, so check this out. So I'm actually in Orlando, Florida now.
Oh, okay. How long you been here?
Yeah. So I kind of like silently, like kind of stealthily moved down to Orlando like right before the pandemic hit.
Oh,
Like
okay.
literally like I went to WPPI. I was there for like a week. I was in Jersey for like maybe an extra 3 days to kind of get my affairs in order, get the house ready, because we were closing like second week of March. So I'd had the house cleaned up and all that, and basically just took the three dogs and drove down to Florida and been here ever since.
What kind of dogs do you have?
Nice.
I've got three. I've got a miniature wiener dog.
Okay.
I've got a pit bull basset hound mix
Okay.
who looks all kinds of crazy, and then I have a Chihuahua, and I think she's like a rat terrier mix.
Good God. So you got a little. So which one runs the house? The Chihuahua?
Right now, the Chihuahua rat terrier, because she's the youngest one,
Yeah.
and she's got a lot of energy. So yeah, she runs it. She runs everything.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
You
I'm
are
excited.
our first official interview after
The
Black History Month. So,
Yeah.
What?
so when we put the title up, Dave was like, "Put a Black History
Black
Month." I was like,
History
"No, it's not Black History Month anymore."
Oh,
But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
black man, you know, he could be light skinned black.
Hey.
So, you know,
Listen, my sister, I have a half sister that's black. So,
okay.
you know,
you're in the
my
club.
mom, yeah, my mom was married to a African American gentleman before she met my dad. So,
Nice.
you know.
Okay.
Nice.
So you in the house? You did. No, but I've always known about you. So let's start with that. And he's known you even longer
I've known you even longer because
through the world
Yeah.
of F-stoppers.
We go way back.
Yeah.
Yup.
Yeah.
So he was excited I was doing the interview, but I got more into you with Clubhouse.
Clubhouse for sure.
Yes.
So you and I being on some panels together and stuff. So I'm happy about that. And I was like, we need to interview Miguel.
Yes, he did.
And then somebody girl fan.
Fangirl.
And
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
I didn't do that, but I was like, he's a good dude. He's dope. He's a good dude. He's a good dude.
and I love the way that you educate. How let's start with your history. How did you get into photography? Let's start there.
So I had some really like straight up nerdy beginnings. I had like two different beginnings. The first beginning when I very first got into photography, I was working in a mall here in Florida, and it was an electronics store. They sold a bunch of stuff, but part of the selection of things that they sold was SLR cameras at the time and camcorders.
Excuse
And so,
me. SLR is
yeah.
SLR
is single lens reflex.
It was before your time, you know. So they had cameras, lenses, you know, all that good stuff, and I didn't know anything about photography. Like I think I took a photography class in like sixth grade or something like that, because I do remember I had a photography class. I was in a dark room. And I got stuck with this like super cute girl in the dark room. It's the only reason I even remember this situation. But outside of that, which I don't think I learned very much back then, I basically had no experience with photography. Oh yeah. I mean, that was a thing, and you know, I'm surprised it didn't trigger me at that time to want to like really dig into photography even more. But you know, started working at this store, and I figured out like, you can't sell photography equipment to somebody if you don't know about photography. Well, you can't just pick up a lens and
people beg to differ.
They try.
Yeah.
They try.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I would be like, yeah, so this lens, it's f. There's a 4 in there, and it's a lens. I know it moves. You want to buy one? Like, it was terrible. It was terrible. So you know, I had to learn. So I bought a camera and just went out and took pictures, and that's how the passion began.
And then you begin to understand what that F4 meant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And then I felt really silly because I thought to myself, all these people, like most of the people that were photographers, they would look at me and be like, yeah, I'm out. But then there were some people who didn't know anything, who bought the nonsense that I was talking about back then. And I was like, oh, I feel bad, man. I feel bad. Oh, I led these people astray. They were looking for wide angle lenses. I sold them a 70 to
85 or 105
200.
millimeter. How
I
much is
mean, I felt terrible,
the
man, but
105 is
you know,
big.
trying to make up for it.
The 105 means you can shoot a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
95
yeah. That's what it is. It's a bigger number. You fit more people because it's 105. Yeah, yeah. I'll take one of those.
Oh my God.
And now
Bad.
you went from that to being a premier teacher on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Not YouTube. And
All
Life
over
is
the place,
funny.
right?
All over,
All
yeah.
over the place. So how in the world did the man who didn't understand wide angle become a premier teacher?
You know, I would say part of it is just being really lucky. Really, really lucky that I came up at the time that I came up. Um, you know, when I was coming up in photography, as far as a professional, aspiring professional, YouTube wasn't the way it is today.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, like the only way you could learn photography truly was either going to school for it or being like an apprentice to somebody who's doing it and who's
Right.
good. And so, you know, being somebody who started out with this environment, with this situation, I try to really go after every resource that I possibly could. And I decided at some point really early on that if I figured things out, that I would try to be that resource that I couldn't find at that point in time. And so that's kind of where the whole, you know, the whole thing kind of just started and flourished from there.
Well, the good teachers are born, they're not made. And sometimes you don't even know that we're going to be a teacher. I
True.
remember when I first started, I was always you're going to be a teacher. I'm like, no, I'm not. And here I am teaching. Did you have it already in your soul? Because you had to
Yeah.
be teaching even before you did photography. Whatever you were into before, you were teaching then.
something? Yeah. Was it?
So, oh man, that's a tough one. So I'm going to share something with you guys that I haven't shared in a while.
I
My
love
very
when people
close
do that with
friends,
us.
my very close friends will know that this is true. But so like I have a nickname amongst like my closest friends, which is Mig Oprah. And the reason for this is that for pretty much my entire life, people just like open up to me and start sharing like, you know, all kinds of like random stuff, like their whole life story. They just sit down and they just start sharing stuff with me, right?
That too. That too.
Another big Oprah, a day Oprah,
The day Oprah.
the Oprah.
Day
So
Oprah.
like, so it was one of those things where like, you know, I got really good at listening to people. I genuinely like I had the heart to want to help people out. So yeah, I don't know if it was necessarily so much wanting to be a teacher, but just more so wanting to help people that felt like they needed the help, you know, just wanted to be a resource for those people. And so I guess in a roundabout way, yeah, I mean,
Wow.
Just like we were just
that's how it
discussing
came
on
about.
Facebook, the compulsion to want to help people even when they didn't ask
Ask
for
for
it.
help. Oh my God.
Yeah, man, and that's something I tell you now these days. I've almost turned that off completely. You know, that part of me that's like I see people in need or they're clueless or they're just going the wrong way, and I'm like, oh, I got to tell you, you know. But I just decided, you know what? Like, if they ask, they ask. But I can't just give it up anymore because it's discouraging sometimes, you know. Like for me, I don't know if this happens to you, Dave, but for me, like I'll give people advice, and it's like 99% of the time they do the exact opposite of what I say.
Oh.
So for me, I'm just like I'm wasting my breath. I'm
Yes.
wasting my
Welcome
breath.
to the dark
My
side.
line is usually
Yep.
like, I don't talk to walls. So if you're not gonna listen,
Yep.
I'm not gonna talk.
Mine is even better. Mine is, so fuck what I just
So
said.
fuck what I said, huh? That's usually it.
For real.
We had a mentee who was doing product photography, and he kept wondering why one side was dark. And we said, so go to like Michael's get some oak tag, get some white oak tag or something, and use that as fill. What did he say?
I am not going to do that. And I was like, what?
He just asked us the question.
Wait, hold on. He called. He said, we had just did some product photography. He says, oh my God, client's there. Oh, client's on the way. Oh my God, I'm panicking. Oh, I took a shot of something. It's not looking right. It's okay, look what you do. You get the poster board, you get something right, you're going to do the. He's like, I am not doing that. And it was like,
So then what the hell are you doing?
why? Well, why are you calling me? Like, what is
Yeah.
with you? So then
Come on, man.
Yeah, he took the shot and it didn't work. He said, okay, I'm on my way to get the poster board right now. It drove me crazy for years. So sometimes when I speak, I'm usually like, you didn't listen? I'm done talking. I'm not talking
we
anymore.
just stopped talking. So we understand your angst, we understand your pain.
Totally.
So let's flip back a little bit. So you got into photography, and what was that journey? So now that you learned photography, what was the journey? Because I'm trying to get from the journey of photography to teaching.
Teacher, yeah.
So let's start with, so what kind of photography did you start off doing?
So at the time, we're talking like late 90s, early 2000s. I was big into cars. I used to go to car club meets. I had what I thought was a pretty nice car at the time, with way too much debt and a lot of souped up stuff. So I go to these car shows, these car club meets, take pictures of cars, take pictures of models, because that was a thing back
Models
then.
on
You'd have all these models. Yup. The low hanging fruit at the time of photography.
This was in Florida?
This was in Florida.
Oh, hell yeah. Bikinis, girls, and muscle cars.
And muscle cars all day, every day. And so I would go to these meets and, take pictures of models, take pictures of cars. I had friends who had really nice cars. So when we would go out, I would take pictures of their cars. I distinctly remember, and I need to bring it to the studio, but I have a photo album that I made at the time of photos that I took of both of our cars. Like we parked them at angles at the mall, and we're like, I'm standing on like the light pole, like trying to get a top down angle on the car, like just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's it. So that's a lot of what I shot. And then I bought a digital camera that I would take with me. I would go out with friends. I had a digital camera and an actual mini DV camcorder. And I would go out with my friends. Yeah. I would go out with friends and we go to the skating rink, bowling alley, whatever. And I'm sitting there with like the camera, shooting the whole thing and, making like silly movies and stuff with friends. And so it's kind of like a mixed bag. Some days I'm taking photos of friends. Some days we're making stupid movies. So it was cool. That's kind of how I got going.
Wow. So how did you cross over to YouTube or teaching?
Well, even before you get there, you were in film. Did you see digital photography taking off, or were you like, oh, that's going to be garbage?
No, I saw it taking off immediately. Matter of fact, so this is crazy. I still remember the first digital photo that I had ever seen. And I'm about to sound like a boomer right now, but one of my friends, his name was Brian. He was the guy who I'm telling you that we parked our cars in the parking lot and I'm taking pictures. He had the same car I did, but it was a yellow Camaro that he called Pikachu. And he's big into like Japanese culture, and he wanted to marry a Japanese woman. So he decided to go to Japan and basically be like, like an exchange student or whatever it is. So he's in Japan, and, we were keeping up with one another because we were pretty good friends. And he was like, yo, we're talking about tech. And he's like, yeah, man, Japan has like the craziest stuff. They have phones that have cameras in them. And I was like, bullshit. No, they don't. He's like, no, for real. And I said, okay. I was like, check this out. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to send me a photograph of you with your hand over your head, sticking out your tongue. And he was like, okay, give me like 10 minutes, right? So like all of a sudden, bing, I get my Prodigy email, notification.
Oh my God,
Prodigy. So I check my email, and lo and behold, it's a picture. It's the size of like a stamp. And it was him going like this. And I was like, yo, that's the craziest thing. You're in Japan and you just sent me a photo. Like, my mind was officially blown to bits. And So that was my first experience. And we're talking like pictures the size of a stamp.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, yo, this is the future. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is crazy. It was just like cell phones were coming up, and I knew like, yo, this home phone stuff is going to be dead. Like,
Yep.
well, what's the point? You know? And so, yeah, I knew way early on. That was my first exposure to it. And I would say like maybe 2 years later, year later or so, you started to see him stateside. And yeah, it was nuts.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
So we're going to reset the room right
Yeah.
now. So okay, so now you're shooting muscle cars and girls.
Uh-huh.
Did
Yep.
that foray into a business?
No, not at all. So it was kind of weird, man. So back then, like, I just graduated high school a few years prior. I was one of these people, like, I was a goofball in school. I remember going to high school with my friends in the morning and being like, yo, what holiday is it today? They're like, today is the watch VHS Jackie Chan movie holiday. I'm like, okay, cool. So we go to first period and we dip out after first period. We'd be at my house watching Jackie Chan flicks, you know? Like every day was a different holiday. Yo, what holiday is it today? Yo, it's time to go get ice cream at second period holiday. Okay, cool. Let's go. So like I did not take school seriously. I definitely should have. But like, yeah, I mean, at that time, like things were really different. I didn't even think that I could ever be somebody who could like make money doing anything full time. Like I thought I was going to be working for the man pretty much my entire life. But I did have a passion for sales. And so at the time, like, I was working at this camera store and then I basically started working sales jobs pretty much from there onwards up until I became, whatever you want to call me today. But like, so I had no idea at the time that it was even a possibility that you could have a camera and you can make money and make a living and support a family and support your family's family. Like that didn't even, you know,
It didn't
back then
register.
that wasn't even a thing. Yeah. It's like, you would have told me that. You would have told me something like that back then. I would have been like, yeah, okay. Y'all are crazy. You know, y'all are
So
nuts.
even before all this, it was pre-digital. You're starting to see
Hmm.
stamp size photos appear on phones. YouTube did
Yeah.
not exist. So
No.
YouTube comes on the
Mm-mm.
scene, and again, tell us how you went into teaching.
So, one of my good friends growing up, he was one of the early pioneers of digital media. He actually was like pre-YouTube. He had a business where he had connections with a bunch of choreographers, like famous, like Britney Spears and NSYNC and those types of folks. And what he would do is he would record dance tutorials that these instructors would basically like do a dance routine, and he would record it and package it and market it and sell it worldwide as dance tutorials or whatever. So he was doing that. He was making money, and then YouTube right around 2005, I guess 2006 is when it started to come up. And so he decided, you know what? I'm selling these DVDs, but I'm just going to start putting them on YouTube because it was starting to get to that point where like he wasn't making that much money selling them anymore.
Of
So he
course.
started posting them up on YouTube, and they blew up. Like people were watching these videos, and he called me up one day and he was like, "Hey, so I'm making money, uh, basically producing these videos and posting them up on YouTube. I joined this YouTube partner program, which at the time there was only like, it's not like today where like anybody could be pretty much a YouTube partner. Back then there were very few. And he told me, he was like, yeah, I made like $11,000 last month. I made 15,000 the month before. And I was like, yo, this is a kid that I used to play Mortal Kombat with. Like, what are you even talking about right now, you know? And that's when I was just like, well, shoot, I got to figure out how to do this YouTube thing, you know? Like he's more boring than me. So like, how do I get in on this? You know what I mean? So it took a long, long time, even after that conversation, but I always kept it in the back of my mind that YouTube was, an avenue that I would have loved to have explored. And Eventually I did, and I didn't make the $11,000 a month on YouTube like he did, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been a
So
lot of fun.
explain your very first YouTube video.
where you tripping and, and
It was
Stumbling.
bad, man. It was bad. I think I started my channel in 2012. So it's kind of weird. I have multiple YouTube. I have one that's like my main YouTube channel where I put out tutorials, but I was putting out videos from before that. And so funny enough, one of my very first YouTube videos, somebody actually, I wasn't on camera. They provided me the video. And then, and it was of somebody famous that was dancing and being stupid, and they gave me the rights to the video. So I posted this video up on YouTube, and I think at this point it's got like 500,000 views or something like that.
Okay.
So my earliest, like first video on YouTube. But for my channel, I think my first one was like I was unboxing the Pocket Wizard Plus 3 or something.
Okay.
And it was bad. It was super bad. But,
So let's ask you this. That was your first video and it was bad. What mistakes, because you love to teach mistakes.
Yeah.
That's your thing. Give us 5 mistakes that you can give us of when you first start doing videos. What are the 5 biggest, unless you want to, so what are the 5 mistakes that you tell people that they make when they first start doing videos?
So that's easy. I would say the first one would be that there's probably like 100, but I would say like the big 5 would probably be so if you're the type that's like me, that's very long-winded, you got to script your stuff. You got to know like what it is that you want this video to look like, and you need to script it. Unless you're that type of person that can write an outline and that could just be very straight to the point and just get it out. I would say that was a big issue. I saw it in my own content and I see it in other people's content, that they eventually get to the point of the video, but they just kind of take a long time to get there. So that would be one. The second thing really would just be like kind of in that same vein, but preparation, making sure that like, you really kind of have an idea and a direction for where the video is going to go, but also like, where are you shooting it? How is it going to be lit? Audio is a big thing. Making sure that the audio wasn't trash, because most of the time, video, it didn't even dawn on me to think about like the audio side of things. I just turn on the camera and just kind of let it fly. It's a big thing. Understanding kind of like how to be entertaining, but how to educate at the same time. I think it's another thing, because some people fall really heavily on one side over the other, and you kind of have to do a little bit of both. If you can't entertain somebody, you're going to have a hard time trying to keep their attention and educate them. So, yeah, so that's 4. And I would say, like, kind of just being self-aware. That was something that I think I struggled with in the beginning, because, like, I felt like every video, especially early on, like I couldn't find myself. I couldn't find like, what's the Miguel on camera version? Like, what does he look like? What does he sound like? I had a really hard time with that in the beginning, and even to this day, like I still kind of struggle. Like if you see me on a live stream like this, and then you see me on a YouTube video, sometimes it's like 2 different Miguels, because I fall back into that like, hey, how's it going? Miguel Quiles here. Today, how amazing it is. Like, I fall into that, rehearsed Miguel. And, sometimes that's not good.
Wow.
Well, that's interesting.
That's interesting. Trust me, we understand. Because we just fell into this, like, over the past
week. Let me stop.
About a year ago.
They kept asking us to go on YouTube. It's like, no.
They kept asking us to be you.
We're like, no.
We kept saying no.
No. And we kept saying it because it's a dedication. You have to be dedicated to putting out content. And our work is weird. Like, we'll be shooting, okay, one day we'll have a large shoot, but we can't have cameras on it. Then another day we'll have a small shoot, but we're shooting, like, a grandma or something, or we'll be shooting products, and it's like...
And that's boring.
It's boring as fuck. So it's like, I don't know. So it's like, I don't...
So we need the Miguels of the world.
Absolutely, to show us the way.
I think you guys are missing like the bigger picture. The big picture is that YouTube and social media and the world at large in general needs to hear your voice. They need to hear your experience. They need to hear, even on a cultural perspective, you need to hear Black voices. You need to be able, like, there are young Black men and women and young people of a variety of races who are looking for people that look like them to teach them stuff. And so I would say, like, you know, it's rough. I mean, I've had, like, I'm Puerto Rican. My mom and dad both from Puerto Rico, and you know, I've even had those conversations with people saying, like, man, you know, you don't really see too many like Hispanic guys. You know, it's usually like the same, you know, white folks that are out there that are teaching. Nothing wrong with that. It's not like, I'm not trying to make it into like a racist thing, but you know, it's just the reality. Like, there's very few people out there that have faces and backgrounds like you and I that are capable of doing this stuff. So to me, like, I feel like it's a responsibility, you know, at least for me. And I would say, like, I would put a little bit of that pressure on you guys to be like, it should be a responsibility.
Okay. All right. All right.
Okay, this is not the interview I was supposed to go. We're interviewing you. We're interviewing you. You're not interviewing us. No. No, you're absolutely right.
You know what it was too? Dallas teaches a class. So when he teaches a class, it's something that people pay for, and it's like, how can you give them something for free without giving away the class? Because it's finding that balance. And I teach retouch. So how can I show them something without giving away what people pay for? So it's that balance of trying to figure out how to do this the right way, and how to, again, you've been on YouTube, I feel extremely vulnerable. Like, you let people into your lives. It's like, I don't want them to critique me. I don't want to be judged.
I don't want to be canceled.
I don't want to be, you know, and I got a potty mouth, so I'm working on that.
Potty mouth. So let's talk about this. You went into teaching, and that led to ambassadorships.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I would say within the first couple of years of pursuing photography as a professional, I reached out to my very first company, which was Savage Universal. They make all the paper backgrounds and all that, I'm sure you know. They were looking for people to basically create content for their website. They had a blog on their website, and we're looking for ambassadors. And so I remember I reached out to them. I sent them an email. I said, hey, you know, I shoot studio photography. That's primarily what I love to do. And I use your products, and I love your product. I would love the opportunity to work with you guys. And I had full confidence that they were like either going to just delete the email or just be like, yeah, whatever, you know, you're not good enough. But they were really kind and really gracious, and ended up working with them early on. They were my first brand that I started working with.
Nice.
And through that relationship, they brought me to WPPI, which opened up additional doors, exposure to other companies and brands. And so it just kind of like, it's snowballed. You know?
For the record, I'm going to cut you off, Miguel. We're having sound problems with you. People are saying you're fading in and out.
My headphones just switched over for whatever crazy reason. So hold on, let me see something here.
This is incredible. I'm sorry.
See, he's doing that thing again.
No, I'm just excited.
Excuses, people were trying to fix some technical difficulties. He's mad cool.
Yeah, always was.
So testing?
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see if that's any better. Hopefully. I can hear you through my headset now.
Okay.
150% better. So let's talk about Savage. So Savage WPPI.
Yeah.
Yep. So they brought me to WPPI. They asked me to do, I was there, I think, for all 3 days of their expo, and started doing like off-camera flash demos and stuff at their booth. And so that's kind of how things got started. You know, they brought me there, and obviously a lot of the people that do these trade shows that work for these different brands, they know other people because it's like it's a circuit. And so So I got the opportunity to connect with other people from, from Tamron, from Sony, from PhotoFlex, from Photox, Profoto, Tether Tools. I mean, pretty much all of the brands that people would want to connect with. I was able to kind of get in with them on a personal level, being introduced to them as an ambassador for Savage. And, it just took time. I kept cultivating the relationships. I knew that being an ambassador is very much like a sales thing. People get it a little bit twisted, and I kind of knew early on what being an ambassador was about. There are some people that get an ambassadorship and they just chill. They just sit back. They got the title and they just sit with the title. But the people who do really well in the business are people who get the ambassadorship and they get out there and they keep grinding and they keep shooting and they keep teaching and they keep just moving things forward. And you do that, and eventually other brands are like, hey, we see you. Like, we want to get involved. We love what you're doing. And so now it's funny because years later you get to the point to where you're just like, do I want to be an ambassador for anybody? Like, the ambassadorship stuff is not what people think it is, So, yeah, I don't know.
Expound on that.
Because we learned that in Clubhouse.
Because we're not part of that world.
Yeah, it's a different world.
Yeah.
We're new to, of course we know about WPPI, we know about PPA, we know about the organizations, but we're not a part of that world. We're
commercial photographers, we do what we do, you know what I mean?
So we're now getting introduced to the world. We just
because we're constantly getting, how come you're not being ambassadors? How come
they literally were upset. Like, they don't have beauty photographers there. They don't have
commercial photographers. Like, you're one of the closest beauty photographers out there. They don't have those things.
And so he was like, you guys need to be there. And it's like, okay, so maybe we should be there, but how to be there? You understand what I mean? We would love it. We love to give information. So we're like, oh, this would be great. So we're new to everything, and of course we got COVID. So
let's ask you this question: What are the pitfalls, or what are the, like you said, it's not what people think it is. So what are some of the myths they think about ambassadorships?
So, the biggest myth, I think, is that you get free stuff. People think like, yeah, I'm an ambassador for Pro Photo, so I got like 50 of everything. And the reality is, like, if I think back on the majority of my ambassadorships, I may have gotten free stuff. Like, we're talking from 2014 to now, so 6.5, 7 years of ambassadorships in general. And I could probably count on like two hands out of all the brands that I've worked with over the years that ever gave me something free. And I'm saying free, like no strings attached, like, we're going to send this to you and, you don't have to do anything for it. Like, that doesn't exist. Like, if they send you something, it's because they expect something of equal, but most of the time of much more value in return. So I would say that's one of the big things. I think the other thing too is that people think being an ambassador all of a sudden makes you like a millionaire, like it just, like you're not getting free stuff, but you have these like contracts where you're making crazy money. And again, that's not the case. Most of the time ambassadorships, honestly, like, say for you guys, like, ambassadorships with a brand would likely benefit them a lot more than it benefits you.
That's what okay.
So, because they're getting to tie their brand to you and what you do. And there's very little value in me tying myself to a big brand. For me, the ambassadorships for me, like the relationships, for example, I'm a Sony ambassador. I have a lot of relationships with people at Sony, like all across the board. Sony for me is like a second family. And so for me, like, that's what the ambassadorship is about. It's about those relationships that I have with, with these individuals. And that's what I value. It's not about free this and free that. And, you're making all this money and, there's some that do. There's definitely some that do. But, if you're the type that you like to teach, I mean, it's opened a lot of opportunities for me to travel, to meet people, but it's definitely a circuit. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if you were to join WWE. You
Right.
know, like you're part of a circuit. Like, okay, yeah, you're a wrestler, but like, what are you really doing? You're traveling all the time.
Right.
You're performing in different states and different cities all the time. Oftentimes teaching the same thing over and over and over again. You know, and so you got to enjoy people. You've got to enjoy um, not just dealing with people who want to learn photography, but also uh, dealing with the back end of things, dealing with the dealers, dealing with the various people that work with these brands that sometimes think they own you, you know, and that they own your opinion. And so, yeah, it's not all it's cut out to be. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of ways for people to really, um, you know, kind of promote themselves and to be bigger in the industry without actually having to attach themselves to a brand,
Okay.
you know.
Mm.
Um, took me a long time to figure that out, but you know, I'm thankful that like the brands that I work with nowadays, they take care of me. You know, they're good people behind the brands, and I have great relationships with them. But I've had other brands that I've worked with that they don't fit that. So
We're literally just putting our pinky toe into the pool, and
Exactly.
right now, what it has
Excuse me.
been, it has been a you guys need to be out there because you're Black photographers and you're actually working photographers, and you need to see that.
bless
And
you.
we're
Thank you.
doing we're doing the jobs, but it's more of people need to see you. People need to see you. So we've been constantly
Yeah.
they've been beating us up with that. People need to, I know you're working, but people need to see that you're working, and they need to see this.
Yes.
And our problem was like we're like why when we working, you know, we
And
working.
we teach because we love what we do.
Yes, and we want to give people
Like you.
information.
Right.
So it was like
Yep.
quirky says, but it's different. Trust me, it's different. So a bunch of our students was like, do this thing. I'm telling you, do it. And so we are at a place where
We're in the courting stages right now.
yeah, we're in the coin stages
Good.
and trying to figure out which direction we want to go and make sure it's a good fit and make sure we're able to maintain ourselves and not lose ourselves in this world, because we're friends with a bunch of ambassadors and they give us the stories that you're giving us, and we just want to make sure it's the right fit and we do it justice and do it the right way.
So somebody just asked you, how do you find the balance with the brands?
You force it. I mean, you got to force it. You know, there's not going to be any balance unless you demand that. If anything, they'll take your arm off. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of brands that I know and a lot of photographers that I know that have basically like hoard themselves out for brands for nothing, for clout. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where like finding balance is something where you have to understand the value that you bring as a creative professional to whatever it is that they do, whatever products they make, whatever services they make. You need to understand your value. And when you understand that value that you intrinsically have and that you bring to the table, finding balance is really easy. You know, for me, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. I say it often. You get a lot of these brands that are like, oh, we have this amazing opportunity for you. Send us such and such photo, and we're going to put it in a magazine and advertise. And okay, yeah, that's cool. So like, what's in it for me? I mean, there's a lot in it for you. You can take one of my crappiest photos and put them in an ad, and there's still value in that. You know, even if it's $5 of value, there's still value in that. So
Did you hear that East Coast, New York, $5?
I'm just saying, you know, it is what it is. So like, so I try to explain that to people, and I think that unfortunately there's a lot of photographers out there who are perfectly willing to drop their pants and spread them cheeks and take that, you know, take that you
That
know,
70 to 200.
yeah. Take that 70 to 200, right?
Yeah.
You know, so and no thank you, no kiss, and you know, no nothing. And it's like that kills me. Like it kills me to see it, because I know, like being that I started out in photography a long time ago, I remember how much it is that brands have to spend to advertise whatever it is that they do. If they're going to be in a magazine, they could be in the back page of some photography magazine that nobody's going to read right now, and they would spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to be back there.
Absolutely.
But they got no budget for you.
Absolutely. Right. Yes, yes,
so
yes.
That's the thing for me. There's a lot of photographers out there willing to, like, you know, be like pimped out. And, you know, so that's where I would say, like, the balance comes with you just understanding, like, what time it is and understanding the economics of it all. And then it's easy to balance because, like I say, you just force that balance.
Yeah.
You know, when they're trying to take your arm, you take their leg. You know what I mean?
And now we're even. Let me start.
Yes. And now there's balance in the force.
That is balance in the force.
That's how it works.
Right.
I'm learning from you guys and people in Clubhouse ambassadors that it's about the relationships. It's about building relationships, and the companies definitely look you out and they put you in these places that not saying you would never been, but you probably would never be in, and meeting these people, and it helps not only them flourish, but it helps you flourish as a photographer. Have you been in what's a surprising situation that wasn't thought out that you like, oh wow, I'm here talking to, you know, have you had any of those moments?
Yeah, he's talking to us.
Yeah. Seriously. No, I mean, let me tell you, the opportunities that I've had to be able to rub shoulders with people, like I've had the opportunity to be in rooms with, you know, CEOs of like Fortune 500 companies through doing these different events, you know, to be in rooms with, you know, famous people and celebrities and people that, you know, a guy who graduated with like a 2.0 GPA would never, ever, ever have the opportunity to be with these people, and let alone to have these people talk to me and be like, they respect what I do and they know what I do. And that's where it's like, wow, that's crazy. And it's all because, you know, it's all because I use this, you know, because I, not specifically the brand, but because I use a camera. You know what I mean? I could take a photo. Like, if it wasn't for that, I would never get to rub shoulders with any of these people. So I think it's bigger than the ambassadorship, and it's more of like just being a photographer. And I'm sure it's been like that with you guys. Like, you've had the opportunity to meet with and work with, you know, people that if it wasn't for the camera, would you have met all of them? You know, would they have had the same level of conversation with you? Would they have the same level of respect for you? Like, that's what I've experienced, and it's crazy. It's nuts to me.
So let me ask you a question. You're out there on a teaching circuit, like YouTube and all that, and now that we've all entered Clubhouse, you see a lot of liars.
Or misinformation.
And misinformation.
Yeah. Exaggerators.
How do you separate yourself from the herd? Because you see poor teachers out there. I mean, how many times have you watched a video and you'd be like, oh my God, why is he teaching it like that?
Oh, it looks like they're lying.
They're lying.
Yeah.
That's not it.
We see that a lot.
They're lying.
So, like, how do you navigate those waters of liars?
You know, I think it starts off with being humble. I think it starts off with being, you know, always having that student mentality. At least that's how it's been for me. You know, when I go into Clubhouse, I started a few rooms. I've been a part of a few rooms, you know, moderated a few chats and things like that. And, you know, I never try to put myself out there as being a master of anything, or, you know, I'm like king shit, you know, coming into these rooms. Like, you know, for me, like, I'm just a dude that takes pictures, and maybe you've heard of me, maybe you haven't, that's fine. But like, you know, I don't claim to know everything. Like, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that I do wrong that I'm sure, you know, like the way that I make rice, you know, sometimes I put a little bit more water than what's necessary, you know, don't follow my rice recipe, but it works for me, you know?
Right.
So like, so that's where I say, like, for me, I think it's just a matter of just not buying into all the hype, you know, that your friends or family or followers or fans, whatever you want to call them, that they give you. It's just about being humble. And I see other people, you know, and the people I vibe with are those same people that are like, I'm not buying into my caricature, you know?
Yes.
So it's tough, you know, and I've been in some of those rooms in Clubhouse where you get these people that are just like pretentious and they're, you know,
Inflated
their shit don't stink.
egos.
Yeah.
And then you go to their
Yeah. And
website
it's
and you go, "This is
discouraging.
the kind of shit you produce."
Oh my God! Oh, they interview.
Yeah.
I am such and such.
I've been shooting for 45 years, and
I be like, oh
Yep.
my God.
Straight down to the audience.
Oh,
Take them right out.
that's what we do.
oh my God!
And but it's a new water to navigate. So
Yeah.
we're learning to navigate these new waters.
We're learning just to be. Just it's okay to be, and keep telling people it's okay just to be in the room. If I have no idea what's going on, like the how do you do this? Like, I have no idea. You should ask him. Maybe he knows. Like, I literally don't know everything or pretend to know everything.
Exactly.
So it's
the
the
same way.
The Clubhouse world is interesting.
So next question for you: what would Miguel be doing right now if Miguel wasn't introduced to the camera?
I would likely either be one of a few things. I would be a professional Magic the Gathering player.
What?
Professional Magic the Gathering player. Because that was the trajectory that I was on before I started with photography.
You don't know what that is for real?
I don't know what that is.
All right, so picture, if you've never heard of Magic the Gathering, it's like Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the Pokemon game?
No, he don't know.
But
So
for
it's
grown
like,
folks.
it's like sorcery cards and it's
Look at the look.
all right. So how would you wound it?
The look on the face says it all. He's just like,
What is? Because I'm like, so let's continue.
I'll tell you later.
I got a lesson.
yeah, you got to show you. He's got to put you onto it.
Always a student.
Wow, but keep going. Wow.
Yeah, so I would say, because that's where I was going prior to, you know, becoming a photographer. That's like I sold my Magic the Gathering cards to buy my first professional digital camera.
Wow.
So, you know, that's kind of how the whole thing got kicked off. But so it would either be that or I would be in sales, more than likely be like a real estate, you know, salesperson. Because I love selling. Like, I love the art and the craft and the process of selling. It's fun to me. It's like a game. So, you know, for me, I probably would be a salesperson of some type. Or if I managed to somehow keep my weight down, I would have been like a professional boxer, you know.
Okay.
Probably would have got my ass whooped a lot, but I would have liked to have done it.
So let me ask you this question. Being a salesperson, you've been in situations where your integrity will be called into play.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to sell something that you didn't believe in?
Yeah.
Um,
You don't have to say
not
what it
really.
is. Good.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I've had opportunities and times where like my integrity could have been tested. Like, I'll give you a prime example. I was doing a dealer event, and I'll never forget this. So I'm in front of this group. There must be like 100 people in this audience. It's at this hotel, and I was there on behalf of a brand that brought me there. But it was a dealer, you know, like a local store that was putting on this conference. But I'm there as a sponsored photographer from a brand that we will leave nameless. Right. So I'm there, I'm doing my presentation, doing my thing. And somebody in the audience raises their hand and they ask me about filters. And they're like, "Oh, do you use filters on your lenses?" And so I was like, you know, I don't use filters on my lenses. I think it's a waste of money. And so as I'm answering and going down that road to answer the question, I see like a silhouette running from the back, just full sprint almost to the front where I was standing.
Right.
And the guy's like, I couldn't even recognize him because it was dark. And he's like, "Well, hold on a minute. You know, we sell these Pro Master filters that are made in Germany, and you know, they got such and such glass." Yeah, all that nonsense, right? And at that moment, I was like, okay, so this guy works for the store. I could have immediately been like, "Oh, well, yeah, ProMaster, that's a different story. ProMaster is the bomb," you know? Like, that probably would have been what somebody else might have done, knowing that, like, this is the person who like
That was
runs
it.
the
Yeah.
store and like, you know what I mean? Just understanding that relationship and dynamic. And I just kind of like was a little bit more taken aback, like shocked, like number one, who is this person? And why are you interrupting me? Like, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to be cocky or anything, but I'm just like,
No.
you know, this is my time. Like, you want to go sell you want to sell your snake oil, go sell it on your own time, you know?
Right, right,
And,
right.
and so I had to take that moment and I was like, well, I don't know anything about those filters. But that doesn't sound like what I just described. I described using cheap filters.
Yeah.
I'm talking like $10 plastic, you know, that you're putting on a $2,000-$3,000 lens. Like my opinion still stands, but by all means, you could do whatever you want. And so that was the only time that I could say where I was just like I could have gone a different way with that, but I was still very like confident and very just centered in who I was, and I wasn't gonna be pimped, you know,
Right.
because I felt like that's what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to pimp his, you know, ProMaster garbage, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that.
Mm.
Sorry,
No, it makes
I'm not there on
sense.
behalf of ProMaster. ProMaster wasn't paying me to
Anyway,
be
right,
there,
exactly.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
have it. There you have it.
so
It's just amazing to see your journey and to see that you didn't change who you are for the brands. You still yourself. And
yeah,
like I said, I've been following you since F stoppers and things like that. Those
yeah,
groups
Oh my God,
and
Miguel.
Strobe and like those different photography groups. I'm like, no, because you've always been like cool. And it was like, and to see that and to see you on YouTube and then to hear about you at the conferences.
And
It
then
was
meeting you, talking one on one
on
in Clubhouse,
Clubhouse.
all
I'm
that
like,
stuff.
oh, he's
yep.
solid. He's been
Yeah.
solid for
You've been the
years.
same person all the way through.
He's
When's your birthday?
December 26th.
And you're a Capricorn too?
You're a Capricorn?
Well, no,
Capricorns
Capricorns aren't normally like that.
no.
I know, I know. I don't fit the stereotypes, man. I don't fit the stereotypes at all, you know? That's been my whole life.
Mhm.
Like whatever the stereotypes are of like anything about me, like I don't fit the stereotype at all. I'm random.
No, it's amazing. I have a question about how do you balance between your work and traveling all over the place? I know you travel a lot.
And your
And
family.
your family.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's a battle, you know. Honestly, it's something I still try to work through, you know. My family understands that I have some kind of vision. They may not always see what the exact vision is, but they know that I'm not just on autopilot, which is good. But yeah, it's tough. You know, sometimes you have to be really intentional about preserving your time and preserving the time that you have planned with your family, and you just have to go with it. You know, for me, I would say in the last like year, it's been a lot easier, being
Yeah.
that you know COVID canceled everything. So it's like,
Exactly.
hey,
Now
you
your
know,
wife is like,
they
get the fuck out of
yeah, go somewhere, please. You know,
here. So
it's true.
now that we're talking about family, when you decided to say I'm going to be this photographer, how was the support from the family?
Was it wasn't there. Yeah, it wasn't there. You know, I think that a lot of people, there were certain family members and friends that looked at what I was doing and they thought maybe I was like giving up on life or something. You know, it's kind of like when you have a friend that like is working a decent job and then all of a sudden they quit their job and they're like, yo, man, I'm working at Burger King. And you're just
And I'm going to
like,
be a rapper.
yeah. And then you're just like, you okay, bro? Like, you all right? You need help? You need some kind of like, so I got a little bit of that when I told family and friends, like, hey, I'm going to be a photographer, because they have no understanding other than just like maybe the people that post on Facebook that are like, oh yeah, I'll do a photo session for $20 and you get 1,000 photos. You know, they see that and they think I'm trying to do that.
retouch photos.
Retouched. It's like, come on now, like, it took a little while, and I also had, being that, you know, like I'm photographing beautiful people, right? That I would have friends and stuff and family who don't understand, and they're like, oh, you know, that's got to be hard, you know, and how does, you know, your close family take it that you're always around these beautiful people, and you know, so nobody got it. And I would even say to this day, like they still kind of don't get it. And you know, you
But
just
you're
got
in
to
a
keep
house.
pushing forward.
But you're living in a house, and it's like, you see
Yeah,
this house? All of this? We had a friend who
all this
recently
is
bought
from something.
we had a friend who recently bought a house during COVID, so you know he's doing damn good. And
Oh
so
yeah.
it's like the people don't believe. It's like, look up,
Look around.
look around.
Like,
Photography paid for that.
yep. They just don't get it, man. I had a really good friend growing up that now that I moved back to Orlando, he lives here, and you know, really talented guy, like plays piano, just very musically talented. More, I would say he's more musically talented than I am photographically talented. So to me, I'm just like, you can make a living with what you do. If I make a living with the skills I have, you definitely can make a living. But you know, it's just like there's a disconnect. Like some people are not wired to either do it or understand it. And you got to be okay with that as an individual. You just got to push forward.
I think for you, one of your gifts were, like you said, you're a salesperson. They're talented people who can't sell. That's why when talented people, they get
Yep.
managers because they're not the ones who
Because
sell.
if you come to buy something from me, and I'll be like, you should get this bottle. It's like, I don't want it. I said, okay.
Okay, that's fine.
That's it.
No,
All
but
right.
that's common. It's common. But, you know, for me, I learned early on as a salesperson, there are a lot of things that people need and they stand in their own way of getting it. And so I don't look at selling or sales as me trying to push people onto stuff they don't need. I look at it more like this is something you want, potentially something you might need, and I don't want to get in the way of that verbally. If anything, I want to encourage you and I want to help you and I want to make sure that when you buy it, that you feel like you made the right decision and you made the right choice versus like I just bought it on a hope and a prayer. I hope it works out, you know? So that's kind of how I've approached sales over the years, and it's done pretty good.
So, you know, we're coming up on our hour, right? We have
Yep.
been at this for an hour.
Yep.
And there's a question I always ask everyone. And that question is,
Mm-hmm.
give me 3 adjectives that describes Miguel and why.
Mellow, because I'm a pretty chill individual.
Okay, that's true.
I'm it takes a lot for me to get animated about anything. Like even things that I probably should get animated about, I'm still like super chill about.
Right.
I'm very I would say thoughtful.
Okay.
You know, most everything that I do or say, I'm not impulsive, right? Like when I say or do something, there's thought and you know training and you know just time that's put into whatever it is that I'm about to say or about to do. You know, I'm not impulsive at all.
And your last one?
And I would say self-content.
Okay.
You know, I'm not that type. Like, there's a lot of people that are like, or even to say it easy, like I'm very much an introvert. You know, and it's
That's
weird because people see the
self-explanatory.
YouTube side of things. Yeah, and they're like, oh, but you're on YouTube and you do these talks and you're in front of people and you this and that. And I'm like, no, I mean, I do all of that, but if I have the option of doing that versus like just chilling, playing a video game or watching Netflix by myself, I would rather do that.
Makes sense.
If there was a way I could get paid for it, then maybe I wouldn't do the other stuff.
So
But
now we're at the last point of this video because they're going to cut us off in a
Yeah,
second.
trying to cut us off.
We're going to
Yeah.
have to do a 5-second freeze for, we have a nice thumbnail. So get ready and smile. You
yeah,
Right, let's do
1,
it.
yep.
2, 3.
Really?
Miguel, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
This
It was
been
fun.
amazing. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. We'll see you later, and we'll be looking forward to your videos.